I want to tell you something about silence. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a room you build around yourself while you figure out what's actually happening. I learned that the year I turned 60, the year my daughter-in-law Vanessa stood up at my own birthday dinner, tapped her glass and said, "This is the last one we're hosting for you." She smiled when she said it. That's the part people don't believe when I tell them. She smiled like she just announced a vacation. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start where it actually began months before that dinner, in small moments I almost let myself ignore. My son Daniel used to call me every Sunday. Not text call. It had been that way since his father passed 4 years earlier. Sundays were ours. That spring the calls got shorter. Then they became texts. Then the texts became, "Busy week, Mom. Talk soon." I told myself he was tired. 2 kids, a business, a marriage. I told myself a lot of things that spring. Then came the dinner where Vanessa mentioned, almost in passing, "We've been talking to a lawyer about some estate stuff. Nothing you need to worry about." I remember setting my fork down very carefully. "What estate stuff?" I asked. "Just planning ahead," she said. "You know, being responsible." I nodded. I did not push. But I did not forget either. Small things accumulate quietly like dust on a shelf you stop dusting. Daniel stopped bringing the grandchildren by on weekdays. Vanessa started referring to our house, when she used to say "your place, Eleanor," with real warmth. Once, she corrected one of the kids for calling the family cabin Grandma's cabin. "It's not just Grandma's," she said. "It's the family's." Small. Deniable. The kind of thing you can't build a confrontation out of, because if you say it out loud you sound paranoid. So I didn't say it out loud. I watched instead. I am not a woman who confronts before she understands. My late husband used to tease me. Eleanor investigates like a detective and forgives like a saint. In that order, never the other way around. So one Tuesday afternoon when the house was empty and the kettle was on, I did something I'm not proud of and don't regret. I called the county recorder's office and asked politely whether there had been any recent filings on the cabin deed, the one my late husband had put solely in my name years ago, so no one can ever touch it, Eleanor, not even our own son, God forbid he needs it. There had been an inquiry, not a filing. An inquiry made 3 weeks earlier, requesting a copy of the deed and its current ownership status. The requester listed was Daniel. I sat with that for a long moment before I made a second call, to Marion, an old friend from my husband's firm who still practiced law part-time. I didn't ask her to do anything. I only asked her to explain in plain language what a person might be trying to determine by pulling a deed like that. "Usually," she said carefully, "someone's checking if a property can be used as collateral, or if it can be folded into something else, a trust, a loan, a restructuring." I thanked her. I hung up. And I did not call Daniel. Not yet. My 60th birthday was held at Daniel and Vanessa's house, as it had been the last 3 years. 12 people. A cake with too much frosting the way I like it. My grandchildren gave me a card they'd colored themselves. For a moment, it almost felt like nothing had changed. Then Vanessa stood, tapped her glass, and said the words that would replay in my mind for months afterward. "I just want to say, this is the last one we're hosting for you. We think it's time you started spending birthdays with your own friends. Family gets so busy, you understand." The table went quiet in the particular way a room goes quiet when everyone senses something but no one wants to name it. I smiled. I said, "Of course. I understand completely." I meant it in a way. I understood far more than she realized. I didn't cry that night. I went home, made tea, and opened the folder I'd started keeping. The one with the deed inquiry printout, Marion's notes, 3 months of noticing. 2 days later Daniel called. Not a Sunday call. A different kind. His voice was tight. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something. It's not good." I already knew, in the way you know a storm has arrived before the first drop falls. His business, the one he'd poured 5 years into, was collapsing under debt he'd hidden from everyone, including Vanessa, until recently. He'd taken a second loan against equipment that no longer existed on paper the way the bank believed it did. The lender was circling. Bankruptcy was a real possibility. And somewhere in his panic someone, a lawyer and advisor I still don't fully know who, had suggested that if family assets were at arm's length, If there was visible, documented distance between him and me, it would be harder for creditors to argue that my property was functionally part of his estate. Vanessa thought if we pulled back publicly it would protect you, he said. She thought if people saw we weren't close, no one could come after your cabin, your accounts. She thought she was protecting you, Mom. I let that sit for a long moment. She could have told me that, I said quietly. Instead she made it sound like I was being discarded. I know, he said. I know how it sounded. I'm sorry. Here's the part that reframed everything for me. It wasn't cruelty, not exactly. It wasn't even a lie built to hurt me. It was fear, badly managed, dressed up as a public announcement instead of a private conversation, because admitting the truth meant admitting Daniel had failed, and Vanessa couldn't bear to be the one who said it plainly. So she said something colder instead, something that let them look composed while quietly trying to build a legal shield around my name. The deed inquiry wasn't an attempt to take my cabin. It was an attempt to make sure no one else could. But knowing the intention didn't undo the method. I had been used as a prop in someone else's crisis management, without a word of consent at my own birthday dinner, in front of my grandchildren. I did not scream. I did not forgive on the spot either. I told Daniel I needed proof, real numbers, real documents, before I would sign anything, guarantee anything, or restructure anything involving property that had been left to me on purpose, by a man who trusted me to protect it. I told Vanessa privately the following week, if you ever need to protect this family again, ask me. Don't announce me out of it. She didn't have an answer for that. I didn't need her to. I still keep my birthdays quiet now, smaller at my own house with people I choose. Not because I was pushed out, because I decided finally where the table would be. That's the difference between being discarded and choosing your own room. I learned it the hard way. But I learned it. And I have never regretted the silence it took to get there.